Early in the morning on April 18, 2016, in Midlothian, Texas, a ghost stepped out of the security camera footage. It wasn't a demon. It was a person fully equipped in SWAT tactical gear, wearing body armor with bold police lettering, a helmet covering their face, and carrying a heavy sledgehammer. He walked with a limp, dragging his right foot in a very distinctive way with every step. He smashed the church's glass door and wandered through the pitch-dark hallways, as if hunting for someone. Just about 40 minutes later, a mother of 3, a beautiful fitness trainer named Missy Bevers, was stabbed dozens of times to death inside that very church. No robbery, no money taken, no signs of sexual assault, only blood and a body lying on the cold floor. And the most horrifying part is, we clearly saw the suspect on camera, but after 10 years, he's still free out there. This is the story of Texas's most mysterious case, one that even the FBI has to shake its head at. Let's rewind to a fateful morning in April 2016. Terry Lee Ann Bevers, affectionately known to everyone as Missy, was born on August 9, 1970, in Graham, Texas. In 1998, she married Brandon Bevers, and together they built a loving family with their 3 daughters. Missy was a trainer for Camp Gladiator, a popular outdoor fitness program across Texas. Her students knew her as someone who was endlessly energetic, optimistic, and passionate about helping others become the best version of themselves. She regularly posted her workout schedule on social media, so anyone interested could easily join her classes. On the evening of April 17, 2016, a powerful thunderstorm swept through the city of Midlothian. Heavy rain made it impossible to hold the next morning's workout outdoors. After giving it some thought, Missy decided to move the class inside Creekside Church of Christ to keep her students safe. She quickly sent out messages informing everyone of the location change and planned to arrive at the church well before dawn to set everything up. It would be the last decision she ever made. What almost no one knew was that, just a few days earlier, Missy had received several unsettling messages on LinkedIn. She described them to people close to her as strange and creepy. At the time, no one believed those messages could have anything to do with the tragedy that was quietly approaching. Just a few hours later, the name Missy Bevers would become known across America as the victim of one of the most haunting and mysterious murder cases of the decade, and even today, the person responsible has never been brought to justice. 4:18 a.m., April 18, 2016. Security cameras inside the church captured Missy Bevers walking through the front doors. She looked calm, cheerful, and completely focused on preparing for the Camp Gladiator class that would begin in less than an hour. But what Missy didn't know was that she wasn't alone. Between 3:50 and 4:30 a.m., the church's motion-activated security cameras were triggered again and again. A mysterious figure appeared. The person was dressed head to toe in tactical gear that closely resembled a SWAT uniform. Body armor, a helmet with a full-face visor, gloves, tactical pants, and heavy boots. Across the chest, one word stood out in bold letters: police. In one hand, the figure carried a hammer, but there was something even more unsettling. The way the person walked. The surveillance footage clearly showed an unusual limp. The right leg appeared to drag slightly with every step, creating a slow, awkward gait. The figure smashed a glass door with the hammer, then calmly wandered through the hallways, testing one door after another as if searching for a specific room or a specific person. There was no panic, no sense of urgency, just someone moving patiently through the empty church. Now imagine that moment outside. Rain pounded against the building inside. The church was almost completely silent, nothing but the sound of the storm and the echo of slow, uneven footsteps. Did Missy hear them? Did she realize someone else was inside? Or did she believe, until her very last moments, that she was completely alone? Around 5 a.m., one of her students arrived early for class. As she walked inside, she made a horrifying discovery. Missy was lying on her back on the floor. She had suffered multiple fatal wounds to her head and chest. Blood covered the area around her body. Nearby lay the same hammer that had been seen in the surveillance footage. Yet something didn't make sense. Her wallet was still there. Her phone was untouched. Her iPad hadn't been taken. Nothing had been stolen. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. This was a targeted killing, and from the very beginning, the Bevers may have been the intended victim. Once investigators gathered the first pieces of evidence, they made a decision that would capture the nation's attention. They released the church's surveillance footage. Within hours, the case exploded across America. The video showed a mysterious figure dressed in tactical gear with the word police across the chest, calmly wandering through the church with a distinctive limp. The footage spread rapidly across news outlets and social media. Millions of people watched it over and over again, hoping to spot something investigators might have missed. The hunt for the killer had officially begun. As in most homicide investigations, detectives first turned their attention to the people closest to the victim. At the top of that list was Missy's husband, Brandon Bevers. After examining phone records and digital evidence, investigators learned that the couple's marriage had been under strain. They were dealing with financial difficulties, and both Brandon and Missy had exchanged personal messages with other people outside their marriage. To many, it sounded like a possible motive, but that theory quickly fell apart. Cell phone records, witness statements, and travel records all confirmed that Brandon was in Mississippi on a fishing trip when the murder took place. His alibi was thoroughly verified, leaving investigators with no evidence linking him to the crime. With Brandon eliminated, public attention shifted almost immediately to another member of the family, Missy's father-in-law, Randy Bevers. The internet became obsessed with the idea. People compared the church surveillance footage to videos of Randy walking in public. Both appeared to have a similar limp. Their height also seemed comparable. That alone was enough to fuel countless YouTube videos, online discussions, and endless speculation. Then another detail pushed the theory even further. Just 4 days after the murder, Randy took several shirts to a dry cleaner. One white shirt had what appeared to be a blood stain. An employee recognized the case from the news, became suspicious, and contacted the police. Rumors spread almost instantly. Had investigators finally found the breakthrough they needed? The forensic results told a very different story. The blood wasn't human. It belonged to a dog. Investigators confirmed it came from an incident in which the family dogs had fought each other. On top of that, travel records placed Randy in California at the time of the murder. Once again, detectives were forced to cross another name off their list, with every major lead seemingly leading nowhere. Investigators returned to the days before Missy's death. Just a few days earlier, Missy had told friends that she had received several strange and creepy messages on LinkedIn from a man she didn't know. Detectives obtained a search warrant for her LinkedIn records. During their investigation, they also discovered another conversation between Missy and a different man she had been messaging for several months. The exchange had gradually become friendly and flirtatious. However, after interviewing him and verifying his whereabouts, detectives concluded that he also had a solid alibi and found no evidence connecting him to the murder. Another lead gone, and that's when investigators began considering a far more unsettling possibility. What if the killer didn't know Missy personally? What if someone had simply been watching her through social media? After all, Missy regularly posted her workout schedule online. Anyone could have known exactly where she would be, exactly what time she would arrive, and that on that rainy morning she would walk into that church completely alone. In the days following the murder, investigators worked around the clock. The deeper they dug into the evidence, the more they realized something unsettling. The killer had made remarkably few mistakes. The most significant lead came from just a short distance away from the church. A surveillance camera at SWFA Outdoors captured a 2010 to 2012 Nissan Altima driving through the area at around 2 a.m. nearly 2 hours before Missy arrived at the church. The vehicle moved slowly through the parking lot, changing direction several times. At moments, its headlights were on. Then they went dark. It appeared as though the driver was watching the area or waiting for something. Investigators also noticed a distinctive oval-shaped sticker on the rear of the vehicle. Police released the surveillance images to the public, describing it as a vehicle of interest, a car that could hold important clues about the case. Yet, even after all these years, the driver has never been identified. Meanwhile, the surveillance footage inside the church presented investigators with an entirely different mystery. The suspect's walk was unlike anything they had expected. Every step was slow and deliberate. The right leg appeared to drag slightly, creating a distinctive limp. To many people, it seemed obvious. Find someone who walked like that, and you might find the killer. But the reality wasn't nearly that simple. The FBI even brought in Dr. Michael Nirenberg, one of the nation's leading forensic podiatrists, to study the footage. He and investigators recreated the suspect's movements while wearing tactical gear similar to what appeared in the video. The results surprised almost everyone. Heavy body armor, tactical boots, and protective equipment can significantly alter the way a person walks. Based on the surveillance footage alone, it was impossible to determine whether the killer was a man or a woman. One of the case's most recognizable clues turned into another dead end. Then, investigators uncovered something else that seemed almost impossible to ignore. Every surveillance camera inside the church was working. Those cameras captured the now famous footage of the suspect wandering through the hallways before the murder, but the exterior security cameras weren't working that morning. Because of that, investigators never saw how the suspect arrived, where the vehicle was parked, or which direction the killer fled after the attack. To this day, authorities have never publicly explained why the exterior camera system wasn't operational. The crime scene itself offered very little to work with. The killer had concealed nearly every identifying feature. Tactical gear covered the entire body, gloves hid any fingerprints, a helmet with a full-face visor concealed the face. Years later, investigators still have not publicly identified any DNA or fingerprint evidence capable of revealing the killer's identity. One lead after another appeared, then disappeared. But when detectives stepped back and looked at the entire picture, a different pattern began to emerge. The killer arrived at the church long before Missy. The killer came fully prepared. Nothing was stolen. Her wallet was still there. Her phone was untouched. Every valuable item remained exactly where it had been. If robbery had been the motive, none of it made sense. That led many investigators to believe this was never a burglary that went wrong. It was someone who came with a plan, someone who knew exactly when Missy would arrive that morning, and someone whose only objective was to kill her. Nearly a decade has passed, yet the murder of Missy Bevers remains unsolved to this day. The Midlothian Police Department continues to classify the case an active investigation, not a cold case. Detectives are still reviewing every new lead that comes in, hoping that even the smallest piece of information could change the course of the investigation. The reward for information leading to the Arrest and prosecution of the killer has now grown to $150,000 over the years. Thousands of tips have been submitted to investigators, and yet there is still not enough evidence to identify the person responsible. For Missy's family, time seems to have stopped on that tragic morning. Nearly 10 years have passed, but they continue to wait for one thing. Justice. So, who killed Missy Bevers? Was it someone who contacted her online? Someone with knowledge of tactical gear, who carefully planned every move and left almost no trace behind? Or could it be someone no one has ever seriously suspected? If you lived in the Midlothian or Dallas area in 2016, remember seeing the niece on Ultima released by investigators, or know anything that could be connected to this case, please contact the Midlothian Police Department. Smallest memory, a detail that seems too insignificant to matter, or a brief encounter you've long since forgotten, sometimes could be the missing piece. Investigators have been searching for all these years until the person responsible is brought to justice. Missy Bevers' story remains unfinished, and the surveillance footage of that lone figure silently walking through the church halls remains one of the most haunting images in the history of unsolved murder cases. What do you think? Who killed Missy Bevers? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next investigation into another unsolved mystery.